better get back, as it'll be dark soon, and they mostly come at night. Mostly.
Welcome to Mostly Horror Movie Night.
Mostly.
I'm Ash.
And I'm Alaina.
What the fuck did we just do?
Accurate.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Sean.
All right. So we have great guests today.
Yeah, we do.
We have Ash and Alaina.
Yeah.
My Midwest is slurring those names together. We have Ash and Alaina.
Ash and Alaina.
We have Ash and Alaina from Morbid, the true crime podcast.
Yes.
Huge true crime podcast. Two just absolutely wonderful people. Great conversation.
It was great talking to them. It was so cool.
Yeah. Super stoked for you guys to hear it. That being said, this intro won't be long. Hopefully, we know you guys just want to listen to the interview. We'll skip through, feel free to jump ahead to the interview if you'd like, but just a couple things that we want to talk about. As always, if you're not following us on Instagram at Mostly Horror Movie Night, do it up. Twitter at Mostly Horror. And again, all of our episodes are on YouTube. If you want to watch us, you want to watch the Morbid Girls when we're chatting and see reactions and stuff, that's the place to do it on our YouTube, Mostly Horror Movie Night. As always, regardless of where you listen, if you feel so kind and you want to hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review, you want to talk about us, you want to be like, I hated his shirt, but I love the words. But you feel free to do that. We love
it. Helps so much. It really does. It helps so much.
When we're a little baby podcast, helps us a bunch. So Sean, didn't you have something you wanted to?
I did. All right, listen, hold up. I mean, we already know about it. I'm just stoked because I didn't know until last night because I don't follow the dates on when things are coming out. But did you see that they put The Woman in the Window on Netflix?
Yeah, I also unfortunately saw the Rotten Tomato score of like 27%.
Cool. Listen, all right, especially
I know.
Especially with horror, I don't give a fuck what Rotten Tomatoes has to say.
Yeah, it's very like, I don't know if it definitely wasn't marketed as a horror film, right? It's like a thriller.
But yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, thriller means so it's not horror, but like it's horror adjacent. It's certainly mostly. Yeah,
of course. Well, that's one of those movies that movie was literally supposed to come out like right when COVID hit. Yeah. So it got that like huge bump to the point where it's not even coming out in theaters anymore. Like it's just on Netflix. Exactly. That's a bummer. I do want to watch it. I love Amy Adams.
Well, so. I was about to say I love Amy Adams. Fucking Gary Oldman's in it. Homie from my favorite episode of what is that?
You love it so much you don't even know the name.
No, I do. Well, the thing is, it's not I don't love the Black Mirror. Black Mirror. He's the guy fucking
playtest.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell.
Yeah.
Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell. But yeah, plus it's obviously inspired by Rear Window. So I kind of want to just rewatch Rear Window and then watch this. And like,
you gotta watch Rear Window, then Disturbia, then The Woman in the Window.
Yeah. I just feel like, how bad can it be? There's no way that it's terrible. It's at least going to be worth a watch. That's it. If this movie sucks, I'll be shocked. But
no, it's definitely, I added it to my list when I saw that it came out on Netflix because it was very like subtly added with everything. No, for sure, that sounds like something I gotta watch soon. And I just have one thing since we're talking to two true crime aficionados.
Yes,
have you heard about the feral people in U.S. parks?
Republicans? Politics.
You posted the TikTok for last week's episode, which, by the way, if you listen to the mini-sode, thanks for hanging with us while we didn't have an episode last week. But you posted asking for people to post questions, and someone asked or something about feral people in U.S. parks. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Is this an epidemic? There's like more than like a random thing happening? Tell me about it.
Not necessarily. So I Googled it, and basically Google said there's been one person who made a very big, recently, one person made a very popular TikTok talking about feral people in the United States or something similar.
Oh boy.
That person's is at The Present Believer.
Okay.
And so what I did is I sent you the TikTok where they talk about it. And what I'm going to do for everyone listening, I'm going to put the audio right here after this, and I'm going to put the video on YouTube so you guys can watch as well and kind of watch this TikTok with us, because I'm really excited to see what people think. So what we'll do is we'll cut for like 2 seconds so Sean can watch this video, and then we'll come in after he's watched it.
I'm nervous. All right,
go ahead and watch it.
Story time on the screams. Last week, my husband and I and our daughter went camping at Big Bend National Park. On our 5th night, we decided to stay at the lodge in the basin to take showers and do some laundry before we went to camp some more. My husband made spaghetti and then accidentally dumped it into the sink when he went to drain it, so we were on the patio like pouting about our dinner being ruined. All of a sudden, he was like, "Shh, what is that?" And we started listening. And all this chaos had broke out, and there was like multiple screams, and I couldn't tell anything apart at first. And then this lady was like going on and screaming, and all of a sudden I could hear like, "We're gonna die." And then there was more screaming, and I mean like primitive screaming, just like along with like words. And at one point she said, "I love you." I thought she said John, but I wasn't sure. "Just know that. I love you. Just know that." Then this kid screamed, "Mommy." Sorry. And then there was a man screaming, and it just kept going on. At one point they said help and call a park ranger. Sorry, I'm shaking. So we called the police. They directed us to the park. My husband offered to drive up to the cottages, which were between us and the trail, and there was nothing. Everyone I asked the next day was clueless.
Holy fuck.
Dude, right? Isn't that crazy?
Holy
like,
fuck.
So basically the whole thing is that there's a lot of missing people that like a lot of people that go missing, obviously, are unsolved cases that are like around areas where there's national parks, because there's a shit ton of national parks. And there's been a big thing about like feral people in national parks, like just living in the park and like hunting people and shit.
Dude, it's fucking Sam Squamch, dude. Just fucking
Sam Squamch. First name Sam.
Sam Squanch, dude. That's awful, especially the child screaming part. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I don't understand, because I don't remember if she said it at the end of that video, but the other video that you had sent me right before that, she was saying that she called the police, and when like, what? Did she call the police, and then when she called back to check on what was going on, the park pretended to not know,
said that nothing happened, or like what she was talking about,
acted like she didn't know. Like, they acted like they didn't know what she was talking about. That's wild to me. It's crazy. I was half expecting it to be something like weird, but then I watched the video and I was like, oh, that feels too real. Like, it feels too real. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that multimedia segment there. So again, we have just an absolute blast of a conversation with Ash and Alaina of the Morbid podcast. If you don't know who they are, like I said before, they host, one of the largest true crime podcasts. They're so funny. They're just like very natural with how they present themselves and the way that they talk, and everything just feels like you're listening to two friends, which I feel like is the best format, or two sisters, best format of a podcast. So, any last thoughts on the interview before we hop into it? I think that they're doing, we talk about it a bit, but I think that they're doing important work in like the true crime community in terms of how they present things. I think everybody should absolutely give them a listen. And if you don't usually stick around for our game segments, you should, but you definitely should for this one, because we have a fucking blast. It's a fun
Ash
time.
And Alaina stay for the game. We do a top 3 of horror characters that should have their own podcast. So it's super fun. They're a blast.
We got good picks.
Without further ado, we'll get you guys over to the interview with Ash and Alaina of the Morbid True Crime podcast. Sean.
Yes, Steve.
You been bringing any groceries into your home recently?
I actually just went grocery shopping today.
When you brought in the groceries, did you also remember to bring horror into your home with you?
No, I forgot to put it on my list.
Dude, here's the thing. You always got to bring horror into your home. And the best way to bring horror into your home is with a handmade candle from the American Nightmare Candle Company.
Which, Mistress of the Night, you are a mind reader. Steve, are you a medium?
I think I'm an extra large.
That's so I call lies, because you clearly are a medium, because you just read my mind, Steve. If there's one way to bring horror into your home, it is exactly what you just said. It's the American Nightmare Candle Company. Each scent is inspired by locations iconic to the horror genre. I'm talking places like the Overlook Hotel.
Ooh.
I'm talking Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
I'm talking Elm Street, Steve.
You're talking Elm Street, Steve?
Elm Street, the Elm Street, Steve. I'm talking Mr. Clawhands himself. If you want your bedroom to smell like burning flesh and dead teenagers, these are the fragrances for you.
Wow.
Not literally, but inspiredly.
Inspiredly. And that's what I'm saying. They have the best fragrances, and each fragrance combination that they make, it's carefully curated, and it transports you into the story. It doesn't transport you next to the story or above or below this. It transports you into the freaking story.
And that's exactly what I want, Steve. That's exactly what I need. I've been watching these movies as close to the screen as I can get, and I just need to be inside of the movie. You know what, Steve?
Yeah.
I need the American Nightmare Candle Company to take all of my money. I would pay full price for these, but what if I told you that we can get it for cheaper, Steve? What if I told you
get it for cheaper?
You can get it for cheaper. I'm talking 10% off when you use the promo code Mostly Horror at checkout.
You're telling me if I use the code Mostly Horror at checkout, I'll get 10% off of these candles?
Mostly Horror, Steve. That's exactly what I'm telling you.
That's amazing. Because see, I've been on the American Nightmare Candle Company Etsy, and I've been on their website, AmericanNightmareCandles.com, and I never knew that I could get a discount with 10% off with the promo code Mostly Horror. So that's
Mostly Horror.
That is amazing. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna stop recording. We're gonna go to AmericanNightmareCandles.com, and we're gonna bring horror into your home. All right, we are joined today by Ash and Alaina of Morbid, a true crime podcast with over 285 episodes as of writing this. I think it was a couple days ago. Their podcast is number 4 for all shows on Apple Podcasts, number 3 on Spotify's true crime charts, number 7 on Spotify overall. And their podcast has a 4.5-star rating on Apple Podcasts with over 38,000 reviews, which is absolutely insane.
Yeah. I didn't even know that. I know. We didn't even know
in case you guys haven't checked.
No, for sure.
Keep going.
Yeah. I was like, how many stats can I get? So yeah, we can't even say how excited we already have you guys on. Sean and I are obviously fans. It hasn't been that long that we've been listening to you guys, but we have been listening. We're both true crime fans and obviously horror fans hosting this show. So super excited to have you on. The first thing I kind of want to ask you guys, so like it's been about 1.5 years now, and I know that you guys were doing some live shows and stuff like that. Like how has it been for you with the podcast during this pandemic, or just in general with life during the pandemic?
Well, first, thank you so much. We're so excited to be on.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
We are psyched. And honestly, it's actually like kind of been good, weirdly enough. We didn't know how it was going to go because we had this whole like mini tour planned. And we were all excited about it. We did one show in New York at the Gramercy Theater. Got that little taste of like, a live show. And we were like so excited.
Ripped away from us.
And then literally within weeks, it was like COVID. And then it was just done.
Devastating.
So, yeah, it was a bummer. But we've been kind of trying to, substitute in some virtual live shows, which have actually been a lot of fun. At first, we didn't know how they were going to go.
Yeah, we were like, what are we doing?
We can't see the audience. Like, we're just kind of talking at a computer screen in our living room. But it's been a lot of fun. And now we just have been doing a thing where we get like super dressed up in costumes for every single one and like theme them out. So that's
hell yeah.
It's wicked fun. For like no reason at all either.
Just no reason.
Like our costumes don't correlate with the cases that we're talking about. We're just like, let's
just
dress
Halloween.
up.
Yeah, no, that's fair. No reason is the best reason in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Is.
That's great. I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, it's, I don't know. The pandemic is obviously stressful for everybody. But it's cool to see people just sort of adapting whatever their lifestyles are to it, and making it work. And hopefully we'll be out sooner than later. So
yeah, fingers crossed.
Exactly.
We'll see. It's a mess. So
I know, seriously.
Okay. So let's jump right into the true crime.
Let's do it.
I'm curious. For both of you, I guess if you guys want to like take turns answering or however you want to go about it, but what got you into true crime? Like how do you have like any early memories of specific shows or specific cases or killers or anything like that pulled you in? What kind of planted that seed that got you guys going on this journey?
You want to go first?
I'll go first. So, because I was on the planet first.
I was going to say oldest goes first.
I would say my first, like for true crime, my first thing that I ever saw related to it was the Black Dahlia case.
Okay.
And I saw some like weird TV. I want to say it was like
Shut up! I was just thinking
or
about
one of those
those
like weird with like what was his name?
Oh, girl, I don't know.
AJ Benza. Where did that come from? Yeah,
I love
AJ
that you
Benza.
asked him. We're like, I know exactly
because I knew it was in there somewhere. And he used to do like the really dramatic reenactment and everything. And I remember they showed, which I'm still shocked they did, the crime scene photos on the show.
Oh man.
They probably blurred them out, but I remember just being like, what is that? Like, what is happening? And I was like way too young to see that. And I remember just being like fascinated by it. And I think it must have been like I could go online at the time and look more up about it. And I remember the one picture of Elizabeth Short with, the giant
Glasgow smile.
Yeah.
And that just, the fact that somebody could do that to another human being, I was like, I need to know more about this.
Yeah.
And then the fact that that one was unsolved just blew my mind open even more. And it was that, and then I think the Ted Bundy case was the one that just, I was like, I need to know more about these kind of people.
Yeah.
Immediately.
I think for me, I really didn't have a choice if I was going to be creepy or not, because like she's my sister. So as soon as I came out of the womb, she was like ready to just
shoehorned it in there.
Creep me out. So I think the first thing that you ever showed me, like the first scary thing that you ever showed me was the movie The Craft. And like from that point forward, I was like, oh, I want to be a witch. Like I am a witch. I know it. And we used to just watch, like you were just saying, like the True Hollywood Stories all the time. And I remember, I think probably the first one that I remember is one of them was Black Dahlia. And then the second one was the Charles Manson family. And I was like, let's go. I'm so into this.
That's wonderful. That's
those are great. Those are like so big too, so that totally.
Oh yeah. Well, plus, I mean,
right?
especially when you see the images from the Black Dahlia case, like at a young age, like that will 100% make a long lasting.
Oh yeah, huge
Yeah,
impression.
you're just instantly a weirdo.
Yeah.
I'm curious, were you guys as parents like supportive of the spooky and the whatever? They just sort of let it happen. Did they encourage it?
Yeah, definitely. Elena, so we're like, we call each other sisters, but we're actually aunt and niece. So Elena's parents raised me, and they have always called Elena a ghoul, and I'm just like Elena's little
And
ghoul
like
now.
lovingly. Yeah, they're both artists. They're both like very
free-spirited.
Yeah, they were always like, you like what you like, we're gonna support it. We're just gonna go with it. And I remember my mom was always, whatever you wanted to get a book, that was the one thing. She would always buy a book wherever we are. Like a toy, not always, but like you want to buy a book, buy a book. So I remember I would always like gravitate towards the like scary books, and the first one was The Real Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Nice.
With like the Stephen Gamble drawings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and that I was like, I don't remember how old I was. I was really young, and I grabbed them and was like, "Can I have this?" And she was like, all right. And I just like, she looked at the cover and was like, let's
all right,
just
you little creep.
give this a try. And I was obsessive about it for like days. And I was showing her, like, I was like, oh my God, look at this one. And I just like obsessively kept reading it. And the drawings in those, like Stephen Gamble's drawings in those will like forever be my entrance into like horror and scary things. Cause I was like, these are nightmares. Like this is nightmare on paper. Everything was drippy and gross and just like, just, ugh. And so that was the thing that really like grabbed me. And my parents were like, all right. And I remember I was like, there's more of these. Can I have more of these?
I need them all, please.
Yeah.
Like just, all right. And I think he had like a few others. There was like a Halloween poems one that was drawn by him. And I wanted everything by him. And my parents were just like, all right, let's go with it. They were super supportive.
Yeah.
That like freedom of expression just like begets so many good things like in the future. Like that's just you, and you can tell like you're so creatively charged with the things that you guys do. So you can tell that you know, being raised that way allowed you to do all those other things or like feel the freedom to do that. So that's so
it really did.
Yeah.
We got great rents.
We did.
It's always interesting to me when I hear about people whose parents were like super, super strict. You know, like I don't know, it's just an interesting whatever. My grandparents were never like, they didn't love that I was into the creepy stuff I was into, but they didn't stop me from doing it. They're like, you know how to behave. If you want to look at the,
I feel like
the
either way,
pictures.
Like, you know.
Yeah.
if you have strict parents, you're just gonna want to do the other stuff regardless. So
Exactly.
like it's a win-win.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes you want to do it
lose-lose.
more.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
feel like it's going to breed like some kind of like, it's going to add the rebellion into it. So it's going to make it a little more like sinister
worse.
almost
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
they're just like supporting it, then you're like, I just love this and I love it.
Yep.
It's fine. But it adds
Exactly.
another layer when it's like forbidden.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They start reading it as like a handbook as opposed to
Yeah, exactly.
something they're just interested in.
Yeah.
So speaking of people reading serial killer stuff like a handbook, I'm curious how you guys approach. I mean, it seems very natural, but do you guys have a certain approach that you're trying to take when you talk about serial killers or like very heavy things? I mean, so obviously listening to your podcast, you know, you have one of my favorite things. My girlfriend listened to this episode before I did and was basically like, you have to listen to the BTK ones because they just talk shit the entire time. Like they call him a little wisp of a man. And like, I'm like, all right, dope.
A
We
shit
gotta,
flower.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, you know, you take this approach that's very progressive to the point where you're talking about the victims and you're making sure to kind of memorialize them in a way and talk about what they had to go through. Is that a strategic approach? Is it something that just happens naturally? Like how do you guys approach handling that type of subject matter?
I think our like initial thing when we started this was it's always been, you know, we wanted to make sure that we could like dunk all over these bad guys and like, but always make sure to tell the victim stories and make them humans and not just BTK's victim number one.
Right.
Like, here's her name. This is what happened. We wanted to be like, this is who she was as a person. And this is, you know, why it is so awful that her family had to lose her in this way. So we always, you know, we always just wanted to kind of lift the victims as like the front runners in here and really push the bad guys into the back, but in a way that's like also making them the losers that they are.
Yeah.
So and it's like, who doesn't want to like just shit all over, you know,
BTK,
Ted Bundy, BTK, you know, like Jeffrey Dahmer. And they make it so easy.
They do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Especially BTK. God, that dude sucks.
There was some stuff in that
So
one.
weird.
You guys are bringing it up, and I was like, wow, I never even thought about it from that perspective. But what a fucking idiot!
Yeah.
He's so
He is.
stupid. Like the water.
I was literally
How he
just
had to have
thinking that.
water because he was like, this is so badass.
I am
Yeah.
drinking water in our house.
Get out of here.
So strange.
Oh,
Yeah, that's one thing I really admire about your guys' show, what you were talking about with the
Well, thank
victims.
you.
The way that you seriously, it's I think that a lot of true crime has been blowing up over the past couple decades. I think there's always been an interest in it, but especially like recently, our generation is really, really big into it. And I know that when I was growing up and I was watching anything about serial killers or stuff, they really did always make the killers kind of the star of the show, always. And it might show the victims, but half the time they didn't even name them all, nonetheless
Yeah.
actually personify them. And you know, it's through things like you guys, some of the new docs coming out, My Favorite Murder, stuff like that I even realized that it was a problem. Like you know what I mean? Like I had this interest in it before, not like in a romanticizing killer sort of sense, but you realized after, like, holy crap, there's this whole aspect of this that is the most important aspect that is not like starring the show. And I don't know, I really like that you guys do that. You know, I think it's super
Thank
important
you.
that we change the approach to true crime, and it's stuff like
Yeah.
you guys that are making that happen. So that's super cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's also like the nicknames too that they get, like kind of elevate them into these like weird, you know, like anti-hero kind of things.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the Night Stalker, and like, you know, it's like that sounds too cool.
And then they
for
like
what he
BTK
is.
Yeah.
starts to name himself. Like people get into that, and you're like, what?
it's
Like, come
stop.
on.
Like we need
Yeah.
to call them what they are, like Shitflower McGee, you know, like Stinky Breath Magoo,
Beefy
like
J-Dog.
just like not cool names.
Yes, no, absolutely. It's especially so, like I've always been a horror fan, and I think especially with some of the earlier true crime stuff, you can find yourself almost seeing them the way that you see a horror movie monster, which is just not how it needs to be. I actually did in like middle school, did a report on John Wayne Gacy. And I never thought Gacy was cool, but like the idea of a killer clown was an interesting idea. And it wasn't until a couple years later, listening to his interviews, that you realize how pathetic of a like disgusting man he is. You're like, you're not scary.
Yeah.
You're just gross. You know,
you're just gross and evil.
Yeah.
That's all.
Like,
ugh.
I don't know.
So congrats.
I think it's important. Yeah, congrats on doing it the right way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
So logistically with your guys' podcast, you have, like I mentioned in our intro, one of the bigger podcasts currently, at least in the United States, and I'm sure you guys have a ton of international listeners as well. I just got my stats from the US, that's why I'm saying that. What, with everything that you guys are doing, your dress up live shows, recording very frequently, like both your podcasts, what does it look like logistically? Like, do you guys have a set strict schedule that you stick to every single week? Like, is it, I'm sure
We wish.
I mean, I was gonna say we're not even close. We're so small, but like ours is crazy enough. So I would love to know what your guys' schedule looks like, or kind of, you know, what the vibe is like with that.
Our schedule is like very, very hectic. Alaina has 3 children under the age of 5.
Right.
So we kind of just record when we can. But going into it, I think we decided that we should do 2 episodes a week. Like for some reason, I don't even know why. Like
Yeah,
we decided that.
I think it was because we started out having one of them be like a mini episode where we kind of did not so much of a deep dive into like a weirder topic. And then it slowly transformed into like every single time I would do a mini episode, it was like
A
longer
full-blown
than
hour.
the regular one. I was like, why are we even doing mini episodes? Let's just do 2 full lengths.
Right.
Right.
But
Yeah. So, I mean, it's crazy. Like we definitely don't have a set schedule, but we're still trying to get there.
we are 3 years later.
Yeah.
We're trying to really get on a set schedule.
But we always get them out before Sunday because we
always
have
do.
to.
We always
Yeah, I was
Right.
gonna say consistency is key. So I mean, it's as long as
It
it continues
is.
to happen, that's what it is. You know, consistency. So with the mini morbids, like, are you just calling them mini morbids and just acknowledging that like this is just
We were
another
for a
episode?
while. Yeah.
I think we just actually recently stopped doing that.
Just were like,
Oh,
here's
really?
the
We were
second
like,
full
they're not
length
minis
episode.
anymore. Sorry.
Yeah.
They don't have
there's
the cool theme song if they're not mini morbids though. So like, what are you gonna?
Yeah, people are
I
really
know.
upset about that.
I know.
I'm gonna have to go on tour and do the mini morbid theme song.
Yeah.
Just
gonna have
that
to figure
over
it
and
out.
over.
It's so
Yeah,
funny
but-
because that started as a joke.
It did.
Oh well, it
It
sticks.
was
The
just
best.
randomly.
Yeah, the best stuff sort of starts as a joke and sticks and becomes like a part of your thing.
know.
Always.
Yeah.
A happy
Um,
accident.
It was.
How much time goes into like researching, like from picking what the episode's going to be about to like, you know, because I'm sure you obviously have to do a ton of research to prep for every episode. It's not just sitting down to record.
Yeah, that's the researching is definitely a lot. It's I mean, it can vary, but it's multiple days for me with one.
Yeah.
Like, and I usually can't sit down to research until like all my kids are in bed, which is usually like 8:30 when everybody's finally like quiet and I can sit for a minute. But I'll research until like 2 a.m. if I
Yeah.
start at like 8:30, and then I'll do it again the next day. And it really depends on the case. Like, you know, the West Memphis 3, I think that was like 4 episodes we did because I just couldn't stop. And that's the thing too. It's like some of these cases you just can't stop. You're
Yeah.
like, I have
Yeah.
to end this
Yeah.
at some point. I can't. Like or it's going to be a whole season of just one case. But yeah, it can take. I mean, like you also do.
Yeah, I take a long time too. Like I think we recorded the Smiley Face Killers yesterday, part 1. I did part 1 and 2, but I think it took me, I started on Monday and I didn't finish until like, I was still adding things yesterday morning. So like a full week.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I'll sit down and try to bang out an entire one and it will take me, like I'll start, because I'm usually here during the day kind of working and stuff. I think it'll take me anywhere from like 6 o'clock until like 3 in the morning sometimes.
Oh man.
It can
Wow.
get crazy.
Jeez.
But it's like you don't realize that it's taking that long because you're just like, so like focused
Yeah.
and zeroed
Yeah,
in,
you're
and you're like,
into it.
I need to get more information.
And you start
Right.
like pulling on little threads that you're like, ooh, what's that about? And then you start diving into this other thing.
Right.
So it's fun and also like disturbing and
Yeah.
emotional. Like I remember doing the Ian Brady and Myra Hindley case.
It's rough.
And like by the end of that, I was like, get these two out of my mind. I need to get this out of my life.
Yeah.
Because there was
Yeah.
times I'd be recording and I'm just like, I'm gonna cry. Like
I think I did
hug
cry
my
during at
kids.
least one of those episodes.
Yeah, so there's been times where it's like you have to step away, or
Yeah.
times we've had to step away and just start a different case. Because there's been times where I'm like, yeah, I'm not ready to do this one. Like halfway
Yeah.
through, I'm like,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is a little too emotional, so I'm going to start a different one, and we'll push that one to another week.
Yep, I've done that before
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I remember listening a couple weeks ago to the Toy Box Killer one, and you just kept saying like, "I'm so excited to stop talking about these fucking people. Like, let's get this done so I can stop talking about them," which makes 100% sense. Like,
my psyche was not ready for that.
Yeah, because it's real. It's
you
like,
can't be.
It's not horror movie. It's real people. So it's like, oh
yeah, Toy Box is such a heavy hitter. Like it.
Yeah, that one's gnarly.
That'll change you as a whole person.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
100%. With doing things that are heavy like that, do you have palate cleansers or like things that you do to turn that switch off, or like,
we did have palate cleansers for a little while.
Palate cleansers,
actual ones. Yeah, my boyfriend would just record like a random fun fact. Like one of them I think was like Extreme Home Makeover came to his town and he got to say move that bus, and that was literally just the palate cleanser. But we actually broke up for a little while, like during the time that we were obviously still recording, so those kind of just like ended, and then I think he came back and did like one.
Yeah, and people wanted it back though,
people want them back, so but he has a whole ass job too, so
but personally like my personal palate cleanser after if it's like a really intense one, it's probably the same as yours, is I'll throw on like Bravo or something and just watch like, a Real Housewives episode or like something totally
just ridiculous,
mindless. That's just like, oh, I just want to watch these rich people yell at each other.
Yeah, or like Gilmore Girls is always comforting. Schitt's Creek.
One. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything lighthearted.
Something you don't have to really emotionally.
I was gonna say I feel like Real Housewives is up there with listening to true crime for me in terms of things that make me just want to throw up. So.
It sometimes is a true crime.
But I get Schitt's Creek and Gilmore Girls. No, for sure that makes sense.
Yeah. God, with how much you guys, I consume a lot of true crime, but I feel like with how much you guys are consuming, I would half expect you guys to play nothing but like old Nick Jr. reruns and like Disney
just got
VHSs
noggin on in the back,
right? Just completely resetting.
Well, we both like stopped kind of listening to true crime.
It's hard
because one, it's like it's already consuming so much of our lives that I think it would be like a little unhealthy if we kept doing it so much.
Yeah, it'd be like 24/7.
And then it's like you never want to like listen to someone's podcast and like, like
subconsciously rip them
subconsciously
off.
Like think a theory that they're thinking and then like say it thinking it's your theory. So I never want that to happen with a case that I'm listening to. So I've just stopped just so I never have to. And then I'll like sometimes listen afterwards and be like, oh, I didn't get that. Like, that's a good theory. But
so I'm actually really curious what your guys' thoughts are. I guess we kind of touched on it a little bit, but what are your guys' thoughts on how certain killers are sort of like household names? They've been like almost romanticized into these superhero killers where other ones aren't. So like everybody knows Ted Bundy, Gacy, Dahmer, versus killers like the Toy Box Killer or, even like Albert Fish or something, which is a bit more popular. Like what, I guess there's a question in there somewhere. Yeah.
No, I totally see what you're saying. Yeah. This pops in our head a lot, actually, because we'll do like random cases. We try to cover some that are like less known or less covered as much as we can. And a lot of the times we'll be like, why doesn't everyone know about this person? Like, why isn't this why is this not a Ted Bundy? Like, this is insane. Yeah. And I've tried to figure out why, and I can't figure out why certain ones get more. I mean, John Wayne Gacy, I think, is a good one to like really like hang up there because of the clown aspect. I think
clown
that just
aspect and like unfortunately the number of victims that he had.
Yeah. But even like, it's like even the Green River Killer. Like a lot of people couldn't give you his real name, but he's like the most prolific serial killer. So it's very strange how it works. I'm not really sure why. I mean, and people like, Jeffrey Dahmer had like the cannibalism aspect. I think those are the things that definitely push them further into the rankings there, but there's still a few that...
I know. I think it's like TV networks too, like pick certain ones and then like everybody sees that. So they're like, oh, that guy, like, do you know that guy? And I'm like, of course I know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even the Toy Box Killer, a lot of people didn't know who he was.
Right,
and I'm
like you said.
This is the gnarliest case I've ever heard. How does everybody not know about this guy?
Yeah, or like even like Myron in It's so hard to say their names, Myra and Ian Hindley. Like when you were telling me that story, I didn't know it. And I was like, how do I not know this? Like, it's so horrific.
It's very strange.
Yeah. It seems like they don't just go off of the most like interesting or unique. It almost seems like there's like a family friendly sort of killer, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it does.
And especially back, you know, in, I don't know, like 70s, 80s, media was really treating it like, it's like an industry, you know, like you're trying to sell your newspapers and stuff. And I feel like they had to pick and choose which ones were messed up enough to be fascinating, but not so messed up that families are going to be upset that you're talking about it at all.
I mean, if your serial killer looks like Zac Efron, you can't not talk about him.
Exactly. That's an interesting little tidbit.
So with so many things that you guys talk about, I mean, you're at, you know, over almost at 300 episodes now. Where are you guys getting your inspiration from? Because so the first thing that I do whenever I find a new true crime podcast is I look for my 2 favorite true crime stories ever. You guys have not done my 2 favorites. So I'm curious, and I'll tell you which ones they are in a second, but it's not about me, it's about you guys. I'm curious how you guys get your, like, not inspiration, but like where you get your ideas from. Is it from, you know, your fans on your Patreon and that sort of stuff, or where are you pulling from?
It definitely comes from that. Like, if I'm stuck, I'll go on like the email or the Patreon, like, and do a heavily requested case. But I think we're pretty similar, and we'll be looking for one thing and find another thing, and we're like another case, and we're like, oh, I'll do that. You know,
that happens a lot. And I have like a list, like a CVS receipt long list of cases that I've always wanted to cover.
Right.
And a lot of them, we want to like space out our big cases that everybody knows, you know, like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, the Manson family. We didn't want to just knock those all out at first and then be like, well, there they are, they're gone. And also we want to make sure that we're presenting them in like a unique way as much as we can, because we know that they're covered so often that we don't want to just like throw the same information at everybody. Right. So I think that, but what, like Ash said, I'll be like researching a case, and then on like a sidebar in like a blog somewhere, I'll see this like really weird, and I'm like, what is that? And then I'll open that and I'm like, what is this? And then it'll go into like 6 different other things. Yeah. So we'll go do a certain case, and it always ends up changing like 10 times.
Yeah. Or even if I'm stuck, sometimes I'll Google like obscure true crime cases and go to like the 10th page and try to find something just like random.
Yeah.
That's a fair. Yeah, I mean, because you guys do have some that's why I was surprised, because you guys have some crazy obscure stuff. I can't remember who it was, but the most recent one I listened to, God, I suck with names. It was with 2, I think, like young girls, like 19 or 20, and they were in like an island, like Caribbean area, or like Peru, or
the missing Panama girls.
Yeah, they're in Panama, and I was like, A, they were eaten by cannibals. But B, I was like, how have I never heard this before? Because it's like that sort of stuff's in my wheelhouse for things I like. But it's crazy because you guys get really obscure stuff like that, which I think is like the most interesting. I'd rather hear that than hear Bundy any day, like any day.
Yeah, that's what interests me.
I think that's how we feel too. So we try to just do that,
mix it up.
Yeah.
Right, the different stuff. I love that you guys covered the Bell Witch. Like, that was great.
Oh yeah,
that was so much fun.
That was cool.
It was fascinating to listen to. I'm curious, like, are you really into like hauntings and UFOs and all that stuff as well?
All of it. That's why we wanted to name the podcast Morbid, and like obviously underneath in very small letters it says a true crime podcast. Yeah. Because we kind of wanted it to be like all encompassing.
Yeah.
Like anything morbid or weird.
Yeah.
Because we love all that strange stuff. Spooky like stuff. All the, you know, the Bennington Triangle and the Bridgewater Triangle, like that stuff fascinates me, and we're right in the middle of the Bridgewater Triangle, so that was kind of fun to do.
Absolutely.
Damn. Yeah, I'm interested in that now too. That's so cool. I have the same. I mean, we did the same thing with our podcast because it's called Mostly Horror. I mean,
I know.
Sean and I were talking. Yeah, Sean and I were talking. He's like, dude, I'm gonna hit you up about like getting Hillary Duff on the podcast in a couple months. And I'm like, if we can make it fit, man, we'll do it.
I would love that. Tell me if you do. I love her.
Right.
Hey, we'll let you know. Really quickly, in case you're wondering, I'm curious if you've ever heard. Have you ever heard of the Emmanuel David cult at all?
That does sound familiar.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, why does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Super.
And I love a good cult.
I was gonna say calling a cult underrated is weird, but I feel like it's one of the most underrated cults. Like it should be talked about more. Just because of the way that everything.
No, their first two albums were great, man.
I love the B-sides.
Yeah, exactly. But no, the Emmanuel David cult is just crazy and probably my favorite thing. Like culty, and then also the Sacramento Vampire. I think his name was like Richard Jenkins or something like that. Like he.
Yeah.
You were talking about how
Richard
Dahmer.
Chase? Is that what it was?
Richard. Oh, Chase. Yeah. Richard Chase.
Is it Chase?
Yeah.
That's actually one that pops up into my thing all the time, and I'm like, I have to cover that.
You're
but
like,
every week I'm like, I'm gonna do it next week.
It's batshit crazy. I love it because of how insane this man was, and like he definitely had mental health issues, nothing to joke about, but like also just absolute wild. Like,
yeah,
it's a ride.
The crime itself is like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I was just curious if you guys.
That one's definitely going to be covered, and now I want to look at that cult.
I was going to say
it sounds really familiar.
I love a good cult.
If you do.
Yeah. So I actually just learned that you guys have another podcast, the Scream podcast.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I'm very curious about it. If I would have known about it before, I would have super dove into that too. So I'm very curious. Go ahead and tell us about it a little bit.
That started when we started our network, and we knew Caleb through Horror Soup, which is another great show that you guys should check out. Then we were like, but we want to do a podcast with you too, because like we love you. And he loves horror films, and Alaina loves horror films, and I like horror films. I'm not like, I don't know all like the classics and everything, but I can get down with horror. Yeah. So we kind of just like wanted to do a show with him, and we were like, hey, let's do it. And then it happened.
Yeah, it was basically every week one of us picks a movie, and it can be any horror movie. And we go into like thrillers and stuff too. Like the first one I chose was Secret Window. Yeah. So I was like,
Secret Window is great.
Such a
so
good.
Yeah.
Love that
But we basically just like chat about the movie. We do like a loose narration of it, and we just kind of try to throw in some fun facts. But it's been fun because we have very different taste in horror movies.
And you can tell it like shows.
Yeah, it's very like Caleb loves like the super weird, obscure, like 70s, 80s ones, and Ash loves like,
I like thrillers a little
like
more.
It Follows, which is a great movie.
That's my movie recommendation.
It's a great one.
Yeah.
There you go.
We interviewed the composer in episode 11 or something.
Disaster.
So
I saw
talking about
that.
the composer.
I
if
was
you guys
just
want to check
funny
out
through
the Disaster Piece episode,
Yeah.
it felt,
gonna listen
we're
to
both
that.
from the Metro Detroit area, so that was like, I think the movie theater in that movie, we've talked about it before, but the movie theater is like 10 minutes away from where we lived.
Oh
so.
my God.
Oh, no way. That's
We
sick.
love it.
I want to go there.
And the music in that movie is like
Primo.
It's so good. It's so
I
good.
love good music in a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
I
need it.
It's its own character.
Exactly, especially in that movie. Like talking to Disaster Piece was just so cool, and he had so much to say and stuff about it.
I can't wait to listen to that now. I saw it when I was scrolling through, and I was like, ooh.
I'm going to listen to that on my way home tonight.
For sure. Do you guys have like earliest horror? So we talked about earliest true crime memories, but do you have earliest like horror film memories that you have?
Oh yeah, I have so many early horror movie memories because I was just always around. Like I was always around adults when I was little, so I would just see like whatever they were watching. So I saw, like I said earlier, The Craft too early,
way too early.
I saw The Blair Witch Project when I was literally 5 years old.
Nice.
I remember watching, like, I didn't like watch it entirely, but I remember on the small little TV in your room with the VCR sitting next to it, you and my mom were watching The Sixth Sense. And I remember like just walking in and sitting down and just finishing the fucking movie with you guys and just being like, I'm terrified.
And I was like, I'm too young to know that this is not okay. But yeah, I'd say actually, which this is weird, one of the first horror movies that I like actually watched was Silence of the Lambs, which happens to be my favorite horror movie.
Yeah.
So and I was like, this is awesome. And then I remember even younger than that, I think the first one that I was really like exposed to was Child's Play, and it was also an accident. And I'm sorry if you hear a baby crying, because I think
the kids are in the bath and they're not happy about it.
They're not psyched. But yeah, I think it was it was my brother watching it at my grandparents' house, I think. Like, my brother and my older cousins. And I happened to, like, walk into the room, and I was like, what is this? And I, like, sat down behind them.
It's like you, like, sneak in.
Yeah.
Like I did with
And they, like,
Sense.
didn't hear me coming in, so they just allowed it to happen. And I remember at the end of that, I was like, what the hell was it? Like, Chucky scared the shit out of me when I was little. I could not get over it.
Oh, I 100% get it. I touched on it in another episode, but I ran out. I was chasing my cousin in a game of tag just to run out in time at the age of 4 to see Drew Barrymore hanging in a tree and scream.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
I remember it so vividly in my head.
Absolutely.
Wow.
I don't know how you couldn't.
That's the first image right there.
It messed me up for years.
Man.
It's always fun to watch that movie now, though, because of that.
Right, because you remember it.
And it's
that
one of the
weird
best.
connection.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
Classic.
One random tidbit that I have to mention about Chucky. I live in New York City. Did I tell you this, Sean? Probably not.
I thought you were going to.
I'm not going to say the fun fact.
Gotcha. Okay.
Live in New York City. Just went to go see a movie, and we're walking out of the AMC, and there's a man on the streets of New York in like the Times Square area. He's shirtless. He has a backpack on. That the backpack is just a Chucky doll. Like, it's just straps and a Chucky doll on the back. And he's
my
shirtless,
goodness.
and he's lifting weights, looking in his reflection of a business.
What?
I had to
That's the
throw that.
greatest thing I've ever heard.
Only in New York too. It makes perfect sense.
It was me and my roommates always go ba 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 da da, like whenever we see crazy shit happening. But it was one of the craziest, like, and he's just going at it. So I had to throw it in there because Chucky.
What a whole mood that is! Like,
that's it. That's a vibe.
Like,
for
he
sure.
was like, no shirt today. No shirt.
Yeah.
So
this backpack will go well with my skin.
The backpack is like a bold choice.
Yeah.
And then to also bring along weights to be like, I should probably do my cardio while we're out here. Like, wow.
I wish I had that as a gift to just post like at the beginning of every morning.
Somebody must.
Yeah.
It sucks because one of those things where you're like, I want to document this so badly, but I've also been like, I've never been more terrified to walk next to a person in my whole life.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't know what to do.
I'll watch this from a distance.
I'll try to burn this into my memory.
It is.
That's so funny.
It's there.
You did not tell me about that.
I forgot. Sorry. So we're basically wrapping up the interview section. We want to go into the game, and do the fun top 3 that we have. Before that, though, we want to do a new thing that we haven't done yet with our interview guests, and basically we want mostly horror recommendations. So for the people that are listening to this, we obviously haven't done this in any episode before, but we would like you guys to recommend a mostly movie, which is just not horror, and then a horror movie. It doesn't need to be something that's like underrated or anything, like just your favorite, something you guys want to recommend, anything like that. We want to know what your recommendations are, and we'll post them after we put this episode out. Whoever wants to go first, feel free.
You go first because I have to think of a different one now.
Okay.
I'll put It Follows with yours too.
There you go. It Follows. So I'm gonna say for my mostly, I'm gonna say go watch Labyrinth because
that's just horror anyways.
It's a great movie and David Bowie's in it, and it's got everything you need. I just showed my 5-year-old twins that movie for the first time the other day, and I did it being like, are they going to love it? Are they going to hate it? Like, I'm so worried that they're going to just be like, Mom, what did you just show me? And they loved it, which I was like, so you are my children? That's awesome.
She texted me and she was like, the girls want to show you Labyrinth tomorrow. And I was like, all right.
I'm so excited. So that's always my go-to.
Yeah.
Like,
so good.
Just like my comfy movie. And then for horror, I would always recommend Silence of the Lambs because it's my favorite thing ever. But I will also just throw in this weird one that you and I actually watched it together. It's called Chat Room.
Oh, so good.
And it has, what is his name?
We did this last time. We were recommending
I can't remember his name.
It's cool. I always have IMDb pulled up because we're a movie podcast.
What is the kid's name? Taylor Johnson.
Chat Room?
Taylor Johnson, is that it?
His
I'm horrible
something
at names.
Taylor Johnson. What is his name?
Jesse?
No, but that was a good.
Wait, is it Jonathan Taylor Thompson?
No.
I was like, what? What?
Is it JTT? I wish.
So the first chat room that comes up is from 2010. Is it Is it a British
I think
film?
that could be it.
It could be it. It is a British film.
Jacob Anderson? I don't know.
Sure.
Sure.
It's fine. Listen, if you're
I
listening
don't
to
know.
this,
Well,
and you
it's
know what
really
movie
good.
it
You guys
is,
should go watch it.
You definitely have to go
Yeah.
watch it because it's really good. And it's
Okay.
creepy and disturbing, but really good.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to look him up and you can tell yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
For my mostly horror, I just watched Promising Young Woman, excuse me, and it was so good. The ending, I was literally like jumping up and down on my couch. And then for horror, I would definitely have to say The Strangers. That's like my favorite horror movie. So
You have good taste.
Yes.
You both have
That
good
is a
taste.
great
Home.
movie.
My boyfriend, it's literally one of the first movies that I showed him, and he like hates scary movies. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, perfect, let's watch this." And now, whenever I want to mess with him, I'm like, "Is Tamra home?" He's like, "I hate you."
Oh man.
Also,
That's
it's
so
Aaron
good.
Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
But since you did two, I'm gonna do two too, and
Do
it's
it,
also
yeah.
one we watched together.
Ooh.
Houses October Built.
Oh, that's
Such
Yeah.
a good movie.
Such
Yes.
a good found footage movie.
Yes, I love
Yeah.
a good found footage.
I
It's
know
one
that
of the better ones.
they did a sequel to it, and I don't remember if I saw it. I know I saw the
They
first
did.
one.
We watched it.
You continuously say that we watched it, but
Okay.
I never remember watching it.
At least I watched
But that's
it.
also just like who I am as a
That is
person.
who you are
so.
as a person.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was definitely good.
The first one's so good. When that little girl walks onto the bus and she's just like,
Dressed
Yeah.
as the doll.
The doll
And she
girl.
just screams.
you're like, what?
Iconic. Just an iconic
so
character.
good.
It is.
Oh yeah.
Solid choices. I'm really curious, real quick. Going back to Labyrinth, so they weren't creeped out by the puppets or animatronics or anything at all?
Weirdly enough, no.
I mean, they're
man.
her kids.
I know.
so-
Yeah, that's
they-
fair.
I thought I was like prepared for it, so I skipped ahead and I like skipped the parts where they're like in the closet and they're in the room, and I basically just brought them to when David Bowie just shows up in the room.
Okay.
And they were like, "Who's that?" I was like, "That's the Goblin King. Don't
Yeah.
worry, it's fine. You'll get it."
Exposition.
And
it's
then
fine.
I kind of and I was a little worried about Ludo. I was like, Ludo can be, but they love Ludo.
Yeah,
so I
Ludo's
was like,
awesome.
so they watched the whole thing and it didn't bother them at all.
Even the shadow guys, the hand, or not
Yeah.
shadow, the hand puppets.
Oh, the hands. Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought the hands
those were-
were gonna be.
The
Yeah.
hands terrified me when I was little.
Like I was
Yeah.
watching it with them, and as soon as the hands part came, I just like looked over at them to like
Oh,
study
shit,
their
oh, shit.
faces. I was like, "That's just puppets, you know that, right?" And they were like, "Yeah, mom, like it's fine."
They're just
but they
in it.
love spooky stuff.
yeah, they're
That's
totally
wonderful.
fine with it.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's so good. Awesome. Well, those are great recommendations. We appreciate you guys giving those.
Thanks.
And
For sure.
I'm just gonna make it people have to do one mostly and two horror from now on because that
Yeah.
worked really well.
Yeah, it's hard to
New
narrow it
format.
down.
I know. It
Yes.
is.
It's also funny because Sean and I love The Strangers. It's one of Sean's favorites. It's one of my favorites too, and we've
So
talked about
good.
it ad nauseum on this podcast. So
Yeah.
people are gonna be like, "Oh, another Strangers person."
Yeah.
Again.
Please.
Sorry, guys.
It's
No,
so
it's so-
good.
I don't know.
How
Strangers
can you
2,
not?
try that.
You don't have to try that.
Stick with
one
the
if
first
you don't
one.
want.
Stick with it.
I haven't seen it.
I feel like
It's
that's
okay.
a no for me.
It has its
Um,
merits.
Exactly. So let's play a game. We're really excited. So the topics for
Sound
this
like
one normally we
Jigsaw, I
do.
love it.
I was just gonna say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's so funny because the audio that we have going into this segment is Jigsaw with like music behind
Play a
it.
game.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
God, you guys
Look at
just
that.
built our podcast already.
Yep.
I already knew
We're
about
on the
it.
same
You just get it. You get what we're doing here, 100%.
So
Same
normally, exactly. Normally we do a top 5. Because we have 4 people, we'll do a top 3 just to narrow it down a little bit. We're gonna do the top 3 horror characters who should have their own podcast. So
Oh, you guys
whichever-
don't even stand a
Alaina-
chance. Let's go.
yeah, I'm so excited for my list because we've had this
I'm so
prepared for a couple
excited.
days because I
Mhm.
knew we knew we were gonna do this.
I'm
Yeah.
so
Um,
excited.
So all right, Alaina, if you want to go first, feel free to take your time, think about it, and
Okay. I have one already.
I was gonna say.
hell yeah.
I'm between 2, but I'll pick one. I'll pick the first one. I think Otis Driftwood from House of a Thousand Corpses needs to have his own podcast. Oh, no, is that what you heard? And I mean, if you've seen the movie, he would be phenomenal at it.
He'd just be yelling.
And I think it would literally just be, and he'd be like one of those long form podcasts where it's like hours each episode,
Yeah.
and it's just him rambling about, and he'd be one of those that could be a solo podcaster and just fill up 3 hours.
Yep.
but he'd just be telling you nonsense, but you'd
Yep.
listen to it anyway. And maybe he'd
Yeah.
have like a call-in where he could yell at you and tell you you're stupid. And he'd have to say at one point, I ain't reading no funny books, mama. Maybe that would be his like outro. I think.
All right, and as usual, I ain't reading no funny books, mama.
Oh my god.
I think that
God.
would be great.
Holy Miss Molly, I caught me a live one. It's you 100% took one of my picks. I literally
Amazing.
wrote Otis. I wrote the word ramblings because it would just be
Yes.
random
Nonsense,
philosophical conspiracy
Yes.
nonsense. And
Alex
I was
Jones. It'd be
yeah,
Alex
it's
Jones.
literally. And
Yeah.
you nailed it with the having people call in. I didn't think about that part, but I figured that he would probably call it the devil's work. But that was just
Yeah.
But I don't
Oh,
know.
like that.
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm
I like
pissed.
that.
All right, starting off stealing my stuff. All right.
We do this all the time. We
Right out
always
the
steal each
gate.
other's stuff. It's all good. All right, Ash, what do you think?
I think for my first pick, I have to say Freddy Krueger because I feel like he could do.
That was one of mine too.
I feel like he could do like a true crime comedy podcast, and we could just not think about the fact that he is like who he is exactly. Like we could leave that part out of it.
Yeah.
But I think he would just be like hilarious to listen.
Oh
to.
yeah,
Very,
Yeah.
very witty.
he would
Yeah.
be
He could
hilarious.
also just like he could just retell dreams that he's been in recently. Like
Yeah.
Yes.
this week in Chelsea's mind or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
just
Oh my god, he
true.
could do a show about like sleep paralysis demons.
Yeah, well, I actually thought it would be great if he had one of those like help you go to sleep podcast, like a
Yeah, because it's hilarious.
Like a com app or something.
Like it makes perfect
Yeah.
sense.
Totally. God, that's an
Nap time
SNL
with Freddy
skit.
Krueger.
That'd be
That's
perfect.
got to be an SNL skit.
It really does.
God.
Hello,
All
Lord.
right.
Great. That's great.
All right,
All right,
okay.
Sean, your list is getting
I love that
tarnished.
we took two of your picks like right
It
off
is.
the bat.
It's
I feel
fine.
kind of cool.
It's fine.
I
It's fine,
I
it's cool.
specifically picked really obscure ones because I was like, I don't want anyone stealing my shit today. So
Well,
Yeah.
Sean can deal with it.
luckily, I usually come to the table with like 5 to 8 picks, but I have like I got a list, so we're okay.
Oh,
All right,
I
give us
really
one of
love
them.
this game, I
I
have to
know.
say.
Yeah, come on anytime, girls.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, anytime you want to play a top 5.
Yeah, even if you just
We'll
want to
do it.
come for game segments, let's go.
Yeah.
seriously, we'll be like, can we come
I'm
on for
down.
the game?
Let's play again.
So speaking of let's play, I'm gonna pick John Kramer, aka Jigsaw. And I think
One, too.
it's not the most creative name for a show, but I feel like he would obviously call it Game Over.
Of course.
And I think it would be a self-help podcast. I feel like that's what he's really big on.
Yeah, honestly.
He's really big on improving yourself, finding your self-worth. He'd probably, have more drastic antics. Never send him your address. No return addresses if you send any mail or anything. But
Yeah,
yeah,
don't do that.
I see him having a very like, you need to get your life together. Go.
Let me do it for you.
I understand that you have been suffering with depression, and I think if you cut off your right foot, just I think you could get a new appreciation for
amazing.
life. And yeah, and I think it would be
Oh my
really
God.
calm and soothing. And then
Oh,
a pig mask would show up at your house, and you'd be on the show.
And there it is.
Boom.
Yeah,
love
That
that.
was that's a
good.
great.
That's perfect.
Sean doesn't do a lot of
Why doesn't that
impressions on the
exist?
show. That's a good bit, Sean.
That wasn't
You
even
need to do
good.
Jigsaw more.
I loved it personally.
I thought it was great.
All right. So my first
turn.
one, I'm gonna choose Leslie Vernon from
You
Behind the
bitch!
Mask. I knew that was gonna be one of them.
Ah, Steve.
Do you
Ooh,
guys
that's
know
a good one.
Behind the Mask. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it would be a very fourth wall breaky meta show where he just kind of walks you step by step on what to do. It'd be basically the podcast translation of his film, what he's doing in his film.
Teaching you how to be
kind
a
of
woman.
walking you through
I
the
would
steps.
listen to
Yeah.
that.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Leslie Vernon would take that over.
Oh, that's a good one.
And I think it would just be called Behind the Mask. It's very simple, but I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like I can't pass that up for
It's
one of them.
perfect.
No, you have to. I would listen to that.
Yep, exactly. So Leslie Vernon locking it in. Elena,
I
what do you
like
think
that.
for number 2?
So the other one I was thinking of was Hannibal Lecter.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. Because
Yep.
he's
Everyone.
Sean's like, cool that you were
Like,
thinking of that too.
awesome. Nailed it. I could listen to, and especially Anthony Hopkins as Hannibal Lecter, I could listen to him talk all day. And it could be like a psychology podcast where he could like go into the psychology of, even if he did a true crime psychology podcast where he just like dives into the minds of these killers because he is one. So he can give us really good insight.
And then he gives you a dinner recommendation.
I was just going to say, and then he ends on a recipe.
Yes.
I like that.
Same wavelength again.
I would really love
it could be
Hannibal.
called Eat the Rude.
Eat the Rude. Perfect.
Yeah, Eat the Rude.
Oh, that should just be a thing.
Because it could also be Mads Mikkelsen if you really wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Or either Hannibal.
Hannibal on Hannibal.
Did you like the Hannibal show? Are you?
I loved.
It's amazing.
The Hannibal show.
So
loved it.
Yep.
Brian Fuller is like, mwah.
Yeah,
he's
so good.
All right.
Oh.
I have a really good one. It's very obscure, but like this is another movie that I saw way too young, so for me it's horror. I'm going to say Frank from Donnie Darko should have his own podcast.
Whoa.
I don't really know what it's going to be about because I just thought of it. But I also feel like he has a really, really good voice for a podcast.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
And he could literally like put his face on the artwork and it'd be the perfect scary podcast.
Wow. I like that.
Thank you.
It would probably be
I'm trying
about,
to think of the concept.
Yeah,
I know,
like
right?
It would be like maybe like a countdown to the end of the earth and a lot of very like, I don't know, philosophical. Maybe he'd talk about time. I really don't know. Yeah,
it's
that's
just an avant-garde
Little
podcast.
conspiracy theories. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like an avant-garde podcast where every episode is just him saying like 12 days, 14 hours. And then it ends right after he's done saying it. It's very like artsy.
So good.
And, yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I love Donnie Darko.
And he has such a great voice.
He does. I think it's perfect.
Yeah. Outside of the suit, not so much. But in the suit,
no, not so much. But in the suit,
have you guys ever seen S Darko, the follow-up to it?
No, I've never seen it.
Me either.
It officially has made more money than Donnie Darko. So I like it. It's like a continuation of the story. It's not, I think the guy's name is Richard Kelly that directed the original one. It's not connected to that. It honestly has a more linear plot than Donnie Darko does, which isn't saying much.
It's not hard.
But it's definitely worth, I was just curious if you guys had seen it. It's worth a watch, I would say. But it's one of those where like people either love it or hate it, just like Donnie Darko itself.
Yeah.
So.
Because the original Samantha is in it, right?
Yeah, I think it's her like grown up. Yeah, or not grown up, but like a little bit older. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, that's so funny.
Not in Sparkle Motion.
I was
anymore.
just gonna say she's still in Sparkle Motion. We're in each other's brain today.
All right, Sean, number 2.
Oh, it's me. Okay, and we only get 3 this time.
Yeah, we're just doing top 3 today.
I'm so glad that I wrote so many because you guys stole so many until Frank. Yeah. Okay. I think we're gonna do Paranorman. I would love Paranorman to have his own podcast. Good. Yeah.
Oh, I would love
that.
Yep.
I would love that.
I think he would just call it Brains, a horror podcast. And he would talk about like old, really indie, low budget horror movies, but he would also have like a medium segment where people can call in and he'll talk to your family members and your ghosty friends and stuff.
Why is that not a real podcast?
I
need that to be a real podcast.
I sure would listen to it.
I need Brains to be here.
Yeah, Brains, a horror podcast. I want to make that a shirt now. Do you think Leica would sue me?
No.
Right?
No. Let's put it, just do it. You draw it. I'll make it on a design.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Do it first, apologize later.
Yeah, there you go.
100%.
Yeah. I'm happy. Even if they're like, give me my money, I'll be like, take it. That's fine. I love you.
That's
it's fine. As long as I can keep the shirt.
I have the shirt.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Exactly.
That's a good one. That's a good
Locking in Paranorman.
That is a good one.
I like that.
So my next one is one of my favorite horror films. It's a partner podcast. I think it's the first one we've done, right? Yeah. It's a partner podcast. It would be Rob and Beth, the 2 main characters from Cloverfield. And basically it would be them. It would be like a daily release where day by day they talk about like what they're doing, where they're at. It wouldn't really fit in the, chronology of Cloverfield because spoiler alert, at the end things don't go so well. But I feel like it could be a good like survival podcast sort of thing where they talk about
that is a good one.
Yeah.
I like that
this is what the West Side looks like today and blah 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 blah.
Oh, I really love that.
Yeah.
It's
I
good.
love Cloverfield.
It's a solid
that's a
pick.
good obscure one. I like Cloverfield too. That scared the shit out of me when I saw it.
I got the monster on my arm.
my
I don't know if you can see
God.
it, but
That's so cool.
Nice.
That's sick.
quick brag.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you. All right, cool. So we're just doing top 3. So Alaina, if you want to round out your squad with a third one.
So my last one, I'm between 2, so maybe I'll steal your idea and just make them team up, even though they're from different movies.
Oh, okay.
I'll force them
fine.
upon each other. So I was between John Shooter from Secret Window.
Oh, he has a great voice
He
for
has a great voice.
podcasting.
And he's real mad about his book, so I would love to hear him just rant about that. Maybe read passages from his book. And then I also wanted Rusty Nail from Joyride.
Oh, another great voice.
And maybe he could just, and maybe they could just, Rusty Nail could yell at him.
Their whole podcast would be like Who Survives, and they fight to the death.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
I like it. But like
that would
every
be
week.
a trip.
I like
Yeah. What an interesting pairing.
Right?
And they just eat a bunch of corn while they do it, and it's fine.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
There's
and pink
corn,
champagne.
Pink champagne. We talk about candy cane a little bit.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to
That's good.
steal both of your little wavelength there, and I'm going to do a partner podcast too with Billy and Stu.
Oh,
because that just needs to happen.
that's perfect.
And I feel like maybe they could just maybe they could go over crimes that had no motive because
like
it's
that.
scarier that way.
Or like a horror movie podcast.
Or a horror movie podcast.
You said Billy and Stu?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I didn't know if I heard you correctly.
I don't know who we're talking about. Billy and Stu?
From Scream.
Oh, ha! Yes. Yeah. My brain needed wow. Wow.
It's that childhood memory of Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
You're pushing it down.
100%. Yes. Jeez.
It's a repressed memory.
My brain was sitting there. I think it's because you said Billy, and for whatever reason, when I think of Billy, I immediately go to Saw, and then after that, I go to Dead Silence. So, but
so who's Stu then?
Oh, Dead Silence is a good one.
Yeah.
For me, it's just Shaggy. That's where I'm at. So,
Yep.
Oh man, caught me so off guard.
That would be
that's a
such
good
a
one.
good one.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be
That
fun.
is a good
I would
one.
listen to
Yeah. My mom's gonna be so mad at me.
He's the best.
all right, Sean.
I want Stu to come back for number 5.
I need it.
It's
We-
Can we just
apparently
pretend he's alive?
So
Yeah.
we were talking about it. We got. I can't officially. I don't want to officially say that we have anyone from that movie. It's very possible we're going to be talking to people that did a lot of work on it.
Oh, really?
But I don't want to say it because we're still getting a date, and I don't want to fuck myself over. But
yeah. It's not Radio Silence, is it? The guys from Radio Silence?
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say
love
who we
them.
might have.
They're the
might be-
nicest people.
They're very nice.
Whoever did that movie. Love
love
Radio
that.
Something to do with this.
But yeah, it might have to do with that.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Damn it, what was I going to say? Oh yeah,
That would be
there's
sick.
there's a
Also,
bunch of
they're
stuff floating and
hilarious, so that will be a great episode.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
No, definitely. It would
That's
be cool
awesome.
if it happened. I'm just gonna
So
say.
now I'm extra excited
would.
about it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Sean, who's your
It's
third?
my turn.
Yeah. Wrap it.
I'm so torn here. I love being in a situation where I have multiple that I still want to do instead of
I know, that was fun.
oh, we didn't do any honorable mentions.
No.
Okay, fine. All right, I'm gonna pick the Midnight Society just as a collective from Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Afraid of the Dark.
Yeah.
That's wait, you're in our brains
You are
too.
in our brain.
We've been talking about Are You Afraid of the Dark for like a week straight.
You have good
Yeah,
taste.
literally.
You are people of culture. That's why. And yeah. Are You Afraid of the Dark
that's
is
a
like
great one.
one of my earliest spooky memories, just consuming that
Me
at a very
too.
young age. Yes, you
I don't
get
know
it.
how I didn't think of that.
You get it. But yeah, basically just literally do what they do around the campfire, but record it.
I love it.
Yep.
They need to do that.
We need to get
so
into
good.
contact with them, guys.
Yeah, we want. All right, this is another
We've tried,
little spoiler.
But,
yeah,
one
we're
is
trying.
like a weatherman now.
Yeah.
And one is doing whatever.
Really?
And, like,
So
Yeah.
random.
the
my God.
only really big person that was in, really big person that was in Are You Afraid of the Dark is Jay Baruchel. because it's Canadian. Yeah, and we reached out to him and haven't heard back. But regardless, it's tough to reach out to people that were in those like really niche sort of things from the 90s.
Yeah, they don't have like a manager or anything, you know.
No, because they basically just stopped after that.
Right.
Yeah. So
but
either way,
that'd be so cool.
Yeah, the Midnight Society.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. I'm
I
surprised
love
you didn't do
that.
that
I like
first
that.
one. That's a good one.
Thank you.
And it
Thank
could
you.
be called Submitted for Your Approval.
There you go. Yeah. Honestly, I like that more because I was just going to call it the Midnight Society, but you're absolutely right. Submitted for your approval. Holy shit!
Yeah, these are good.
Let's
these are really
produce
good.
it. Let's fund it.
Let's
I was gonna say we've got good ideas.
We
man.
do.
All right, so for the very last pick, mine's animated, just like Paranorman Sean, and I would consider it horror.
Horror.
I'm gonna go with Wirt and Greg from Over the Garden Wall. I don't know if you guys have ever seen Over the Garden Wall, but
that's a good one.
I haven't seen that one.
That's a good one.
It's a limited series, or it's a small series. It's animated and it was on Cartoon Network. It's like 10 episodes, but it's like so autumnal, like it just feels like fall, and it's all like pumpkins
I love that.
It is.
Oh, I'm gonna watch that. Cool.
You will love it.
It feels like an old cartoon, but like it's not. It's Elijah Wood's the lead character. It's amazing. It's absolutely
I'm
amazing.
definitely gonna watch that now.
But Wirt and Greg just would have great banter back and forth.
100%.
I feel like Greg would just come up with random topics for them to talk about, and then they would just go back and forth on the topic. It would just be like a grab bag sort of show,
a free for all.
But I could listen to Greg talk all day. The kid's hilarious.
Oh, that's a good one.
Definitely stoked on it.
Yeah.
Those were good picks.
I feel like we need to make all of these happen.
I know.
Yeah.
If we can find a way to make these characters come to life, we'll talk about it. We'll figure it out.
100%.
But awesome. Well, that is one of the best games we've done.
Yeah,
Ash Alaina, thank you guys so much for being on this podcast. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
Yeah,
this
thank
has
you
been
for having us.
awesome.
This was so cool.
Yeah, no worries at all. If you guys, we always do this game like the game portion separate. So if someone doesn't want to do the game in their episode, feel free to hop on anytime.
Come join.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, call us.
Let us
We're
know.
there.
We are down.
We will. We will.
We'll let you know.
We will.
Because after this, I'm writing down a whole list.
I know,
of ones
same.
so that I'm ready.
I feel like I'm
an
gonna
email,
think of
like-
so many while I'm falling asleep tonight. I'm gonna be like, damn it, why didn't I say that?
Yeah.
Use them for next time.
Exactly. That totally makes sense. Well, guys, thank you again for being on. Everyone listening, thank you guys for listening. As always, this is Mostly Horror Movie Night. Like, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.